gather round, feel the love compound. Blue elephant is strong, together we
Hey guys, welcome back to my
belong.
channel. So we are using this absolutely stunning mold by Into Resin. It has a gorgeous poinsettia on it and just some diamond and jewel kind of stuff going on in the bottom. But I want to show you how you can highlight these pieces and the little individual kind of bits and parts, even though they're on an angle, even though it could be a whole thing, but you don't necessarily want to say dust it or do any of that. So what we're going to do is I just mixed up a little bit of Let's Resin's epoxy resin, added a bunch of gold glitter, and now I'm going in with some chunky red glitter, and then I'm going to go in with some fine red glitter as well. And the reason I want to do this is I want this packed full of glitter. I don't want to see my stick when I mix it up, okay? Because I'm not going to color it with any colorant at all. The last time I did this mold was a while ago when I first got it, and I did it in strictly, I had kind of gone through and brushed the flower and just did clear on the bottom. Well, today I want to do it to where I want these pieces like the flowers, and I want the actual like kind of jewel diamond cutouts done with glitter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just using this craft stick, and I am kind of just dotting the glitter resin into these little areas. Now, the rest of it is going to be clear, so we're not going in with any color whatsoever. The only color that we are having in this entire piece is just going to be our glitter. And I'm going to go in on the bottom, and I'm going to just add the gold glitter to the areas where I kind of want it, and then we're going to go back with the red, and we're going to add the red to it too. Now, for this particular part, because these pieces are so small, I am going in with, like, on the super skinny ones with the gold because I'm using just the fine glitter. And I'm going to save those bigger ones for my red glitter because I have that chunky glitter in there. Now, you could go in with just straight fine glitter if you want, but I really like that Recollections. I think it's called cherry glitter. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So I wanted to include that in here. And I want it to be a mix of the two for the flower. So that's what we're going to do. Now, this part, yes, it can be tedious, and I don't know, it's worth it. Like, the end result is definitely worth the time that it took to do all of these little areas with the resin. Now, could you use UV resin? Maybe, but you're going to have an issue with drying it at this point. Like, the mold is not clear, so you're not going to get it to dry from underneath. So I think that using this much UV resin would be a mistake. I think that you would have a lot left over that when you go to demold it at the end, you're going to have problems. Now, we will be using some UV resin later on, and I'll show you what we're going to do. But for now, we're going in and we are packing this heavy with glitter. Now, if you notice on this mold, these poinsettia leaves, they kind of run up the sides of it. We're obviously not going to get the resin to stay there, right? It's going to go down and find its own level. So you want to be careful how much you put on and know that it's going to go down. You know, you saw me kind of pull it up as high as I could. I did that, yes, to kind of try and get some of that glitter maybe to stay behind, but I know that it's going to go towards the middle. So be careful on how much you put, because we don't want a big huge blob in the middle. We want it to kind of remain the way that we set it up, if that makes sense. We'll deal with the sides later and you'll see. Now I'm just going in here with these little ones, and I am taking a pointed Q-tip where it's very difficult to get into these little spots with this chunky glitter because it just wants to go everywhere, and kind of getting it to just drip in one at a time, like one little drip at a time to fill up these tiny little areas. I was over pouring the resin some, so I just wanted to clean it up to have it as neat as possible. Now, obviously, there's some ways once resin kind of starts to it kind of goes over. And you know how, like, okay. So, like when you do a top coat or something, it holds the tension, right? And it holds the tension as well on this until you put that one drop on it that makes it too much, and then it starts to run. And then I feel like once it starts to run, that's it. It's over. All right, this is 24 hours later. Now it is time to do the sides of those poinsettia leaves where they are going up along the side. And I figured the best way to do this was some UV resin, because I don't want to just stop the flower where it doesn't, it shouldn't stop. And I want to continue on doing this. So UV resin is the way we're going to go. I'm going in with the same colors. I'm packing in that glitter. But what we're going to have to do a little bit differently is, because we're using UV resin, and because it's not going to go through everything, like, you're going to have to kind of take it in layers. So you can add a little bit, cure it, add a little bit more to get that uniform effect of the glitter being packed in. Just do it in different layers, and then just hold it kind of up to the side so that it's not running down, and take it to where that leaf ends, and then cure it on its side. Now, I just cured it long enough so that it wasn't going to move, and then I would go in with my next layer and add it and move around that way. And if I thought that it had enough, I wasn't adding anymore. If I had pieces that needed a little bit more, I added more to it, if that makes sense. You just want to make sure that you have a uniform consistency of the way that your glitter is packed in, so it doesn't look like two separate pieces. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want it to look like it was all done at the same time. And then at the end, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the little bit of leftover UV resin that I have, and I'm going to cover up that gold kind of mess that I've got going on in the center, just because I'm not adding any color to it. So this is going to be a clear piece, and so it just looks a little bit neater on the back side when you lift up the lid. That's pretty much all I'm going to do at this point. So as I go through and kind of just show you what I'm doing, I'm going to bounce off. Now, please know that at the end, after I'm done kind of getting it all where I want it and doing that, first cure on it just to hold it in place, I do put it under there for a good 5-6 minutes just to make sure it is 100% cured. Is there a possibility that when I demold this, it is going to be wet? Yes. I may have to come back and cure it later on from the top side, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Well, I was going to put on music, but I realized that I talked so much that I talked all the way through it anyway. So I am finishing this up right now, and then we're going to get ready after this is all cured and it's been under there for a good 5 or 6 minutes. Now we're going to do some deep pour resin. Now, do you need deep pour resin for the bottom of this? No, but you do for that top lid. And I'm just using some Marabou rainbow glitter alcohol ink stuff. I only did about 10 drops. I don't want this to be colored. I don't want it to have necessarily glitter in it, but I do kind of like that sparkle that Marabou gives it. It's not so much that it's overpowering. You can honestly hardly even see it. I probably could have put more in. Kind of like a super sparkle, but not quite, but it's fine. But we are going to use the deep pour resin. We're just going to go ahead and do both of them. Now, I did spend a lot of time going around the rim of this to get out any air bubbles. And if you noticed, when I first poured it, underneath, right where I'm working right now, there was a bunch of big bubbles that came out. When I was handling this, I knocked it loose. And so it is not sealed anymore onto the mold like it should be. So that's going to also be something that we're going to have to deal with upon demold. When you're doing stuff like this, you want to be careful not to knock it loose. And I guess I was just doing my thing and not necessarily thinking about that. And I did knock that loose. So be careful in your handling. Filling this up, and then we're going to go ahead and fill up the bottom part. And amazingly enough, like, I literally made exactly what I needed, which, like, never, ever, ever happens. So that was really cool. Hitting it with my heat gun, and then I'm just gonna keep fiddling with it because I keep seeing bubbles. But we are gonna go in here and pour it into the actual bowl itself. And like, look at that. Like, that never happens. It's amazing. Now I am going over, these are all like little diamond cut or crystal, not diamond. This, the bottom part of this is crystal cut. It's those big ones that I filled with the glitter that are diamonds in there. And just making sure that there's no bubbles that get kind of attached to that. Shouldn't have a problem with it. It's deep pore resin, so it's super, super thin viscosity to begin with. So honestly, bubbles should not be an issue, but I did take the time on the lid to go under that rim and make sure that nothing got caught under there. And then set it aside and let it cure for, honestly, I let it cure for 3 days. This was the one that was supposed to go out Tuesday and it wasn't done yet because my house is on the cooler side, so it's been taking things a little bit longer to, kind of cure, unfortunately. Okay, so 3 days later, this is what we're looking like. It is time to demold these. Now, I noticed as I was demolding this one that my resin at this point is still very, very soft. It probably could have gone another day, and as soon as I took it out, misshaped it. So I had to go back and kind of make it round again, make sure the lid fit and work it around that way, and then just kind of let it be and whatever. Now it's time for the lid. Now, absolutely gorgeous. Like, look how beautiful that is. That red just pops. But I'm going to show you here in a second a little bit closer up. I don't know if you can tell right now. There is a thin film where the resin seeped under over all of this. So I've got some holes to fill, and you can see it's almost like it's frosted. It's not that clear anymore. We're going to fix that. That's not going to be a problem at all. So the first thing I need to do is I need to fill these air pockets that kind of got in there just from the resin seeping under. We're going to fill those up. I'm going to work it in with a toothpick to make sure that you can't see. And then the only thing I'm going to do after that, after I cure that and that's all set, is I'm just taking a junk paintbrush. This is just a garbage one that I don't use for anything because I don't think there's any way to save them once you put resin on it. And I am taking a little bit of the UV resin, and by a little bit, I literally mean like a few drops, like maybe 5 drops. And I am just taking a super, super thin coat, and I'm going to paint it over those pieces of the leaves and wherever where it's looking frosty. And what that's going to do is that is going to clear that up and make it glossy and shiny and clear again, the way that it should have been had I not loosened it away from the molds for the resin to seep under there to begin with. And then we're going to cure it under our UV light. Now, I am taking my time and I'm going over the entire piece before I cure it. And that's just to kind of give that, even though it's such a small amount of resin, I want to give it enough time to kind of level out for the amount that I'm putting on so that I don't have brush strokes in there, if that makes sense to you. Because like when you're putting on brush strokes, you know how like even when you're doing it with paint, you have like parts that may be thicker than others where you can actually see that line. And I'm hoping that by me doing this, that it'll just kind of flatten out and I'll have a perfect looking piece when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and do this part, cure it, and then we're just going to add just a tiny bit more detail to these leaves with a gold paint pen, and then honestly, that's it. So that's done. This is all nice and cured. Now it is time to go over and add that little bit of detail, and that's pretty much it. I'm just going on the raised section of each one of these leaves and I'm going over with my gold paint pen. Now, if I mess up or get too much on or slip over into a place that I'm not supposed to be, I just got a Q-tip with some alcohol and I'm cleaning it off real quick. You can pretty much get most of it off if you work fast. That's it. That is a wrap on this one, guys. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I will see you on Saturday in the next one. Love ya. Bye.
Together we belong. In every comment right, you lift me to new heights. Your support, it's clear, gives me reason to cheer. Blue elephant crew, this one's up for you. much we care. Likes and shares, they grow. You make the channel